speakers. And thank you, Dana. And thank you all for having me here today to share my story. Before coming into contact with NPower, I was a resident in a domestic violence shelter. I dropped out of college when I was a junior. I was the first person in my in my family to go to college, which was huge, but I was 8 weeks pregnant and in a failing marriage. Dropping out was honestly the least of my worries. I got a job at a food kiosk in Battery Park selling lobster rolls. I remember it was October and it was starting to get cold. At noon, the consultants would come down in their suits and order $20 lobster rolls. I didn't know what they did. I just told myself, someday, that's going to be me. I saw myself in their shoes. Fast forward, 8 months later, my son Aiden and I moved into a shelter. I had a newborn baby and 90 days to get our lives together. I was breastfeeding and trying to get my bearings. But to keep our shelter spot and our benefits, I had to find a job or get into a back-to-work training program. As soon as I secured a spot for Aiden at a Montessori school, the shelter pushed me to get a job. H&M, Forever 21, whatever I could find. But I didn't want a minimum wage sales position. I have never been in a shelter, but a lot of my family members had. I knew if I didn't create the right foundation, Aiden and I would end up right back there. I didn't want to expose my son to the childhood I grew up with, living in a community flooded with poverty, drug abuse, sickness, and violence. I kept asking my caseworker about back-to-work programming in tech. I think she thought it was crazy, but eventually she found me a training position, scanning documents and fixing printers at a local nonprofit. A couple of weeks later, the shelter director handed me a coffee-stained flyer for an intensive training program called NPower. She said, I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but give them a call. I sat for an interview with NPower the next day, and the next week, I was sitting in classes. Now, I'm not exaggerating when I say that every executive NPower brought into our classroom for guest lectures became my mentor. I would ask for informational meetings, 10-minute calls, anything I can get. Now, in the beginning, I just had one question. Is this really possible for me? I needed to know, was I just shooting darts? Is this a fantasy? Can I have a career in tech with my background? Person after person after person said yes, of course you can, and that was all I needed. I started reading Yahoo Finance and technology news. I was watching speeches from Obama and Oprah to understand how to communicate without the slang that I grew up with. At the shelter, I would watch TLC's What Not to Wear to learn how to dress appropriately for interviews. I was becoming more confident, but around week 5, our 90 days at the shelter was up. The director saw how driven I was and found a Tier 2 shelter, which gave us an additional 24 months. But we had to relocate to the Bronx, which meant at any given day, we were spending hours on the train commuting between boroughs. I would wake up at 5 a.m. to get Aiden to school in Soho by 7, head to class in Brooklyn by 8, then over to my nonprofit job. Most nights we wouldn't get back home until 8 or 9 p.m. And I was in the middle of a terrible custody battle. Looking back, I'm surprised I was able to keep it together. NPower kind of checked every box for me. They brought in mentors so I didn't have to stalk people on LinkedIn. They set up site visits to help us learn to navigate the office environment. They taught me how to leverage my past experiences and skills with potential employers. I was 22 years old. I should have been graduating college. I'm like, okay, I'm a homeless mom going through a terrible divorce. How can I present the energy of a passionate, recent grad so that they'll take a chance on me? I had to signal I could hit the ground running. I was ready to start my internship when Hurricane Sandy hit the city and destroyed my placement site. I was devastated. I had the education, but I needed the experience. But if there's one thing I've learned on this journey, is that everything happens for a reason. NPower asked me to speak at graduation, and when I finished my speech, a senior executive from Deloitte offered me an internship on the spot. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't know anything about Deloitte. I've never heard of the Big Four. But sitting at orientation in a room full of Ivy League graduates, that's when it hit me how powerful NPower really is. They helped me. They helped give me, a homeless mom, a seat at that table. Deloitte placed me at their Battery Park site. I couldn't believe it. Remember, just 16 months earlier, I was outside freezing, pregnant, selling lobster rolls, unsure of where my life would end up. On my first day at Deloitte, I went to that very same food kiosk and bought myself a lobster roll. I'm not sure if I even ate it. I think I sat there in my suit just crying into it. That was my 360 moment. You can truly manifest anything you are willing to put the work in for. After my internship, I had 3 amazing job offers. I gathered all of my mentors on a conference call to help me choose. Ultimately, I accepted a role at Worldwide Technology, a global systems integrator with $13.4 billion in annual revenue. Today, nearly 8 years later, I am an associate managing consultant in a specialized group called Digital Transformation Group. Our mandate is to help our global financial services customers accelerate their digital transformation while de-risking it. NPower has been there for me every step of the way. I was often the only Black woman in the room. NPower taught me how to navigate office politics and negotiate salary. They helped me to advocate for myself and speak with power in a way that's not confrontational, but opens the door for people to look at something they may not have been conscious of. NPower has never left my side, and I will never leave theirs. Aiden and I live in an apartment in Flatbush now. He is a charismatic and intelligent 4th grader who is interested in coding and soccer. But right now, his main focus is running a huge campaign for a cat for Christmas. To this day, my mentors remind me that I am here because I've earned it. And now I mentor others. I'm here to tell them, yes, this is possible for you too. Organizations like NPower and Robinhood are making sure that's the case. I never wanted to say life happened to me. No, I took it by the neck. I had the drive, but NPower, they gave me preparation and opportunity, and it has made all the difference. Thank you.